We've been talking about triggers. Today we're going to talk about how to identify what your triggers are. Everything that we do in life, we do for a reason, or we wouldn't do it at all. Talked about that in other videos, and we've also talked about how much of our time we're operating in the subconscious or from the subconscious part of our brain. We're on autopilot. We've been conditioned throughout our life to behave in certain ways, to experience certain emotions, and we do that because of the outcome that it's given us. But because we're on autopilot 90% of the time, we don't question what we're doing. We don't question what's going on around us. We're oftentimes not aware of the beliefs that are driving our behavior. And so every day we have things going on around us which are called triggers. That's one name for them that we can use. And those triggers have an influence on us and how we feel and how we act. So today we want to talk about how do we identify triggers and how they are affecting us or influencing us in our life. When we're on autopilot, we may be being triggered all of the time, but we're not paying attention. So my boss makes me angry. My child upsets me because he or she isn't doing what I want them to do. My child is ruining my life because they're making poor choices and I can't control what they do. I'm worried because of our finances. I got in an accident, and what am I going to do now that I don't have a car to drive? Everything that happens in our life are triggers, and when we're in that subconscious state, when we're unaware, we're just responding without really thinking about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So the first step is we need to strive to become more aware, to turn our brains on and to become aware of what our beliefs are about all of those things that are triggering us in our life. So I like to say there are two kinds of triggers. There are internal and there are external. And this is just a way to kind of conceptualize it or think about it to give you more power or more control over how you respond to those triggers. So an internal trigger is just a thought. It's a thought that we have inside our own brain, our own head, about an event that happens around us or a circumstance or a situation. An external trigger is it's basically a noun. It's a person, a place, a thing, or an event. So these are things that are happening around our life every single day. Now here's the question. Can you have an internal trigger without an external trigger? So let's connect this to emotions for a minute. So we have triggers and then we have emotions. So could we have an internal trigger without an external trigger? I believe that the answer to that question is yes. Have you ever found yourself experiencing anger or sadness or fear about something that has not even happened? That you've just begun thinking about something in the past or thinking about something in the future that may or may not happen, and that creates an emotion? So we can create an emotion just within our own head by the thoughts that we have. The other question, though, is can we have an external trigger without an internal trigger? And the answer to that is no. And here's the reason why. These triggers, so these events, these things, these places, whatever that trigger is, they have no meaning in and of themselves. They just are. It's just information. It's just feedback. This means nothing until I attach meaning to it. And again, we attach the meaning with our thoughts. So in order to identify what our triggers are, we first need to begin to pay attention. Now, we know that each one of us experience somewhere between 10,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. So it's our thoughts that are creating our emotions. It's our thoughts that are creating or attaching the meaning to these events that are happening around us. And if we're trying to be aware of and manage our thoughts, well, how successful do you think that we're going to be at managing or being aware of 10,000 to 60,000 thoughts, especially when our attention span is only about 7 seconds long? So it's really difficult to manage and to be aware of our thoughts. Try it sometime. Try to just sit and focus on your breathing and pay attention to nothing else, and see how long you can just focus on your breathing. It won't take very long before another thought will pop into your head, and then another thought, and then before long you'll go, wait a minute, I was supposed to be focused on my breathing. So you bring it back to your breathing, but then you'll have another thought and another thought. So it's really difficult to manage our thoughts. A better way to become aware of what we're thinking is if we pay attention to our emotions. And especially if we're trying to manage emotions that aren't working for us. They're not giving us the outcomes that we want in our life. So let's say that I really struggle with my anger and I want to gain better control of my anger. So I'm going to cue into my anger. And every time I feel myself beginning to become upset or angry, now I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to look at, okay, well, what's been happening around me? So what are the triggers? What are the events that have been going on in my life? And then I will look at, so what are my thoughts about that? And now I can go back to, so I have thoughts about the event, and as a result, I'm feeling the emotion of anger. You know, my child didn't do what I asked them to do, and so that would be the trigger. I have thoughts about that where I may say, well, that's not right. My child should listen to me. They should do what I want them to do, and they're not. And so I get angry. Well, why would I choose anger versus frustration or disappointment or sadness? So I need to look at, when I'm feeling that emotion of anger, well, what do? Do I yell? Do I try to control physically? And maybe that's what it's about, is that anger is a way that I believe tends to put me back in control of my life and my relationship. So I use anger as a way to try and control another person. But as we know about the principle of control, I can't control anyone else. All I can do is influence them. So again, by becoming aware of that, becoming aware of my emotion, then looking at my thoughts and my beliefs and what the goal of that is, which is, I want to be happy, and the way that I am happy is by getting my child to do what I want them to do. I can realize that that's a false belief, that I can choose to be happy regardless of what my child is doing. I don't have control over what my child is doing. I only have control over me, but I have influence over my child. And so instead of getting angry, I may choose to talk to them and try to understand why they're doing or not doing what they're doing. I may try to build my relationship with them so I have more influence over them in their life. Again, the way to identify our triggers is just becoming aware. The best suggestion that I can give you is to pay attention to your emotions and then backtrack from there. So I'm feeling this emotion. What's the trigger or the event going on around me? What are my thoughts about that? And then why am I choosing to feel the emotion and to do the behavior that I'm doing? And is it really working for me? Is it giving me the outcomes that I want? And if not, it's an opportunity to learn, to go back and to change my thoughts, change my beliefs, which will allow me to change my behavior and give me more of the outcomes that I want in my life. Thanks again for watching. If you liked today's video, go ahead and like it, ring the bell, and come and see us again tomorrow.